Hey, Dr. Brett.
Hey, Ashley.
So, what are some strategies when you have to switch teams? How do you deal with the yips when you join a new team?
Well, the yips in general are problematic wherever you are. You got to work them through. If you're joining a new team and you have the yips, I'm wondering why. Who's taking you? Like that's a tricky one, right? Because the yips destroy your confidence, and you're probably being demoted, right? You're going from AAA to AA, the majors back. One of the kids that I almost coached was in the majors. His parents, I talked to his parents, they loved me, but the agent nixed it. He went from the majors back to AAA because he had the yips. And I was pretty close to getting on the ground there. It would have been a lot of fun to help him work through it, but you got to work it through and then bring your way back and build your confidence back. And that's a process, that's a journey.
Hey, Dr. Brett.
Yes.
So, what if I'm performing well on the outside, but I don't feel good on the inside? How does that work? How do I become good on the inside as well as the outside?
Yeah, that's a fascinating question, and that's really a question that very few people have ever asked me, right? How do you, if you're actually doing well and you don't feel it, that's not uncommon because a lot of athletes, especially top athletes, are perfectionists, right? And so they don't give themselves permission while they're trying to make it at the highest levels to enjoy the process. And so that's really about journey and learning how to enjoy the journey and giving yourself permission to celebrate the victories and not just do what Urban Meyer types used to do, which is, they're dialing after they win a national championship. They can't relax or enjoy any of it. A lot of top athletes have that experience. It's so hard to make it that they can't enjoy it till the end of their careers. And often that's not the best way.
Hey, Dr. Brett.
Hey, Ashley.
One of our interns just started golfing.
All right.
It's
Which
pretty
one?
cool. Jared. He just started golfing. So he wants to know, how do I hit the ball every time?
I mean, three out of 10 makes you a top major leaguer, right? Because think about it. I just looked up the Yankees batting average, and it's 248 for the team. Like, that's their whole team batting average, 248. And they only have a few hitters hitting 300, which is 3 out of 10. So what you're looking at is what I call putting the barrel of the bat on the ball as often as possible. In other words, process, not outcome. If you square up and put that barrel of the bat on the ball, which means you're so present and so focused in the batter's box, you're likely to get a hit one out of 3 times because you hit more and more line drives. You square it up. So again, you're focused on process, not outcome, which is to be so freaking present you can't help but put the barrel of the bat on the ball.
Hey, Dr. Brett.
Hey, Ashley.
So we can't ignore one big part of this mental game, the heat. How do you deal with the heat, especially if you're like a golfer or you're outside this summer playing sports?
Well, I mean, if you like Wim Hof at all, the heat and the cold are your friend. In other words, they make you tougher, right? Look, I've been starting to golf again on Mondays in Florida in the summertime. The heat index is 106, 107, 108. I'm doing midday because there's no one out there. I'm playing PGA National. It's fantastic. It's not expensive for us locals, right? It's just the South Florida Golf Pass. And I am blissed out. I'm listening to podcasts or learning Thai and handling 2.5 hours of 107, 108, 109 heat index, 93, 94 degrees plus the humidity, which is 70, 80%. I'm drinking a lot of water, but I'm blissed out because my body is tolerating the heat because I'm adjusting to it like you can adjust to an ice bath or something. I don't have an ice bath. I was thinking about maybe that I should do that next year. But I was listening to Rogan. He was actually giving Andrew Huberman shit for being a pussy around the ice bath. And Rogan's obviously, this is his thing. He's been doing it forever and everything. But when you expose yourself to the cold, you're getting tougher. And literally, believe it or not, Ashley, when I used to live in Westport, Connecticut in my 30s, I used to boycott winter. I didn't wear a winter jacket for like 5 straight winters.
That's crazy.
At all.
That's crazy.
I know back then it used to be really cold.
Yeah,
I'd be 20s and 30s and stuff. And I literally didn't get sick for almost a decade. Like, I just didn't get sick. And I think part of it was before I ever got exposed to Wim Hof, I was doing it without knowing it, exposing myself to the cold. So exposure, it's the same thing with, dating or relationships. You want to expose yourself to experiences. Otherwise, you're not going to have any tolerance.
Hey, Dr. Brett.
Hey, Ashley.
What if you have a captain who isn't being a captain and you feel you can step up to the role of being captain?
Yeah, so that's a tricky one, right? Because, leadership is tricky and it's like if you're the colonel and the general sucks, you can't just take his spot. He's the general. So, and you can't really, you don't want to stab him in the back and you don't want to undermine him. We got a cruise ship going by, whatever.
I kind of want to keep this
Right?
though.
So that's a tricky one. I think the best probably way to handle it is to deal with the captain and try to empower him to become or her to become a better captain, so to speak, right? And if it's not working, then perhaps you have some conversations with the coach or GM or athletic director. But you got to be it's tricky because you don't want to be whining or tattletaling or going behind people's backs unless it's completely necessary.
Hey, Dr. Brett.
Hey, Ashley.
How can quarterbacks, when their team isn't listening, how do you regroup them?
Well, when the team isn't listening, that's a deeper issue, right? That's a locker room issue. You've probably lost the locker room, so you got to revisit your leadership skills. What's going on way before you take the snap or in the huddle, right? If they're not listening and you're the leader, the quarterback, you've got a bigger problem. So I think that's a deeper issue around leadership, and it's a longer term issue about sometimes it can be the environment, meaning the team might not be the best fit as well. But that's something you're going to need to explore, with your sports psychologist for sure. Cool.
Hey, Dr. Brett.
Hey, Ashley.
So I just met a quarterback, and he gets the yips when he's in the pocket. How do we tell him to stay calm under pressure?
Okay, well, we don't, anybody can say stay calm under pressure, right? The process is about teaching the calmness off the field or on the field and vice versa. Learning how to train your mind and learning how to stay calm everywhere, in every situation. As he learns to stay more present, more patient, and more poised everywhere, eventually it'll translate into the pocket. How do you do that? You train your mind. How do you do that? Meditation, mindfulness, visualization, breath work, positive self-talk, and what I call enhanced communication skills, getting tougher, communicating your truth, living your truth, not avoiding it. Makes you tougher everywhere. And then you step in that pocket and you're just more present, more patient, and more poised. And you only have 2.6 seconds, but it works.
Hey, Dr. Brett.
Hey, Ashley.
How do base runners, how are they able to maintain focus stealing the bases?
Stealing the bases. That's funny. No one ever asked me that question. But someone, one of the baseball players I coached the other day, he went 0 for 5, and I said to him, don't ever let that happen again. I'm like, choke up like you have 2 strikes if you feel off in the batter's box, and then, you'll get a blooper or you'll get some kind of hit or maybe you'll walk, right? And he said to me, he goes, it's funny you say that because that's exactly what my hitting coach said. And I said to him, if 2 people, one without a technical background in baseball, says the exact same thing as your hitting coach, then you want to freaking listen here. So what we want to be doing in any sport, it doesn't matter what it is we want to be pivoting, making adjustments, not allowing ourselves to stay stuck. He was off, and so he did the same thing 5 times and basically struck out 3 or 4 times and got out on a weak ground ball the other time. Not a good call, right? So again, I'm teaching athletes how to pivot off the field for on the field and vice versa. We're always making changes. We're becoming more flexible, more adaptive, more creative, and more resilient.
Hey, Dr. Brett.
Hey, Ashley.
We have an intern who's a coach now. He's coaching baseball.
Awesome.
Do you have any advice for a brand new coach, just light behind his eyes?
It's just great experience, right? I'm sure he's coaching adolescents.
Yeah,
of
they're
some
not.
sort, but
It's not
but
good.
these are great experiences to have because, the best coaches, they started coaching Little League or they started coaching middle school or high school or whatever it is. So you want these experiences. And the advice I would say is for the coach to train his mind so he's more present, right? And then to teach the kids some mental game techniques to train their mind, not just the physical game, right? The meditation, the mindfulness, the visualization, the breath work, the positive self-talk, and then again, the enhanced communication skills. Most coaches in general, generalizing, are not great communicators. You can become a great communicator, but you got to practice and you got to learn.
Hey, Dr. Brett.
Hey, Ashley.
I'm shooting 3-pointers. I'm shooting in the paint. I'm going hard in the paint. But I cannot make a free throw to save my life. What's going on here?
Well, that was definitely, that was mental. Like, that one's going to be mental. It's a really good chance that one's mental, right? It's like when the fans are in the background or you're slowing down, the person is struggling when everything gets quiet. In other words, they haven't trained their mind for real. And that's so obvious. Because think about a Zen mind, a quiet mind, right? Or no mind, right? In other words, their mind is active when the game slows down. When you're at the free throw line, I remember, like, in high school, we had no size. We played freshman basketball, and that was it, because we just had no height. And, you know, I mean,
I remember having no height.
But the last 2 minutes, the coaches would put in all the fucking bench players and stuff, right? So one time, you know, at the end of the game, they put the twins in, my twin brother and I, and we'd hack everybody up because we had on the bench the whole game, right? Because we had no size, but we were good. Anyway, I got fouled once. I went to the free throw line and hit 2 swishers, and the coach talked about it for months. Like it didn't even hit they were perfect free throws, right? I got my chance, I made the 2, right? And the coach was like, you know what I mean? Because when you have your opportunities, right? Now, why did that happen? We've always been pretty clutch athletes, my twin and I. But part of it is practice, right? And then, of course, back then I didn't actively train my mind. I just had some clutch ability. Now I actually train my freaking mind. So train your mind.
Perfect. Hey, Dr. Brett.
Hey, Ashley.
What do I do if I'm getting the yips in the middle of a game, though? Like, I'm playing well the first quarter now, or the first half. The second half, I'm in my head.
Breathe.
Okay.
I'm always teaching everybody to use the breath, right? Especially because, not just because the breath is free, but it's also because it's so effective, right? If you're in a situation where you're on the field already, you're not going to be able to meditate while you're in the middle of the game, right? Unless you're changing over between games or something, in tennis or something, right? Or you're on the sideline, right? On the sideline, you can go into a meditative state if you practice enough. But what you can do is basic box breathing, 4 or 5 seconds in, 4 or 5 second hold, 4 or 5 second release, 4 or 5 second hold again. You can do that 2, 3, 4, 5 times. You can do that at night to try to fall asleep. You can practice it during the day. There are other breathwork techniques that are effective too, but the breath in general, short term, is probably going to be the most effective thing you can do. Observation skills are also powerful, bringing your focus into the moment, right? Observing the sky, the clouds, the fields, someone's face. The more you observe, the more present you become. You want to use the positive self-talk as well. Stay present, I got this, and so on.
Hey, Dr. Brett.
Hey, Ashley.
So it looks like I'm playing well, but I mean, if you look at my stats, I have the yips.
Oh, geez.
How?
Oh, boy.
Yeah, it's because my team's still winning. So how do I explain that to my coach?
Well, you know, look, the coach is going to know something's wrong. The question is, what is the coach's capacity to, you know, talk it through with you? And what is your capacity to talk it through with the coach? You're probably going to get benched and you're going to have to fight your way back. And that's a tricky thing, right? So the problem with the yips is you're going to get demoted, right? You might not go from major leagues to AAA, but, you know, I mean, you might be on the bench for a little while, or you will get demoted from AAA to AA or whatever it is. So you're going to have to fight your way through it and fight your way back. Communication is going to be a piece of that. But hopefully the coaches will have some understanding as well. If they don't, you're going to need to get really tough about how you communicate. And again, this is why having a sports psychologist or mental game coach or life coach can be invaluable.
Hey, Dr. Brett.
Yeah.
So what I really meant was, like, when you join in new teams and you're, you know, they're kind of maybe bullying you a little bit and you're a little scared to practice tough.
Now, are we in kindergarten or
No,
first
I mean,
grade?
you still get, listen, grown men are still little boys.
Yeah, well, we gotta look. I mean, you know, the sports world is about performance, and we got to learn how to get tough, right? And you know, sometimes we go through periods of time where we're yippy, where, you know, we lose our confidence. We go through, in baseball, they call it a slump, right? You go through slump periods of time, or you do get really yippy, you lose the strike zone or something. You're going to need to work it through. Are there technical aspects of it? Sometimes, you know, like my putting stroke might be too closed or something, whatever it is, and you need to make a little technical adjustment. That can go a long way. A lot of times, though, it's mental, emotional, spiritual. Where are you in your life? You know, are you getting the emotional tar kicked out of you by your girlfriend or boyfriend? You know what I mean? Where, you know, what's going on off the field? Is one of your parents dying or sick? Did you make a bad business decision, right? So what we want to do is clear up all the dramas and distractions, and then what we want to focus on is what's in the way. And sometimes it can be fear of success, fear of failure. It can get a little deep and tricky. That's why sports psychology is growing so much, because there's so many dimensions to this question you're asking.
Hey, Dr. Brett.
Yes.
What's the secret to high pressure situations?
So high pressure for some people is too much pressure. They call it the moment, right? But what you're doing is constantly exposing yourself, like the cold or like the heat, to more and more situations where you're having to experience pressure. The more tournaments you play, the better, right? The bigger the tournaments, the closer you get to winning, the better. A lot of people, when they break through, whether it's Scotty Scheffler a few years ago, or Tiger Woods is an exception. He was winning ever since he's a little kid. And Scotty Scheffler was too, #1 player in the world or whatever. But a lot of times when they get to the PGA Tour or pro tennis circuit or whatever it is, they get close a number of times before they finally break through. So we're constantly exposing ourselves to more and more competition, more intense competition, and we're learning how to win, how to thrive under extreme pressure or duress. The Navy SEALs do this shit too, constant exposure.
Hey, Dr. Brett.
Hey, Ashley.
Is there such thing as an unshakable confidence?
Unshakable confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you're in the zone, you got a couple of hours or whatever it is on a golf course, and then it's going to go. I mean, there are times I have played all full rounds in the zone, but it's pretty rare. And there are golfers that shoot 59 or 60 or 61 or 62, and they're in the zone pretty much the whole time. So it can happen. But zones are something that flow states you come in and out of, and what you learn to do is manage the time in between. So you're not always going to be in the zone. When you are, you're picking up chicks.